All right. Greetings, brothers and sisters. Tonight is February 24th, 2024. This is our 21st session of the course of African philosophy for this year, wrapping up um, this semester, so to speak. Um, okay. So as always, first thing we like to do is our pledge to the UNIA flag, UNI RPG flag. So if you would, officers, please stand, put your black fist in the air, say along with me. Ready? I commit my body,
My
mind,
body, mind, and
spirit
spirit,
to the protection,
protection,
defense, and
defense,
security
and security,
of the red, black, and
black
green.
and green.
I dedicate my
I
life
take my life
to the
to
redemption
the
of Mother
redemption
Africa
of the
and the liberation of her
African
scattered
scattered
black
black
children.
children.
I
I
accept for
accept for
myself
myself and
descendants
my descendants
the teachings of
the
universal African nationalism,
African nationalism.
and I promise that our children
Our
will be
children will
instilled
be instilled
with the
with the
purpose
purpose
and
and
knowledge
knowledge
of
of
themselves
themselves
as
as
African people,
African people,
in order that the
in
cause
order
of
that the
struggle
cause of our struggle
will neither
will
falter
neither
nor
falter
fail
nor fail,
until all black
until
people
until
all
all
black
black
people
are
people
united
are
free
free
and
and
united
through one
through
God,
God,
one aim,
one
one
destiny.
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 Research, excellent, excellent. Let me see something. I'll go to that later. Brief roll call for tonight. Have myself, Brother John. We have our recording secretary, Brother Art, our Vice President in Training, Brother Malik, Lady Vice President, Sister Diane, Lady President, Sister Ra Ebony, and we have two guests, Sister Cicely and Brother Sam. Um, so last week we read lesson 20, titled Living for Something. And tonight is one of the longest lessons, probably the second longest lesson behind the lesson one, history of the UNIA. So tonight is going to be a lot of reading. So we need to kind of run through these questions as quickly as possible. Um, any questions, concerns before we get started? There was something that I wanted to. I'm gonna give me 1 second. Because this lesson that we're getting ready to read touches on um, what is it? The structure of our meetings. And we just talked about this recently with the School of African Philosophy. So, meeting regarding the School of African Philosophy. Want to incorporate the rituals as we will read tonight in lesson history of the UNIA. When we get to page 169, it'll state you should always observe the proper form opening and closing a meeting, as well as a proper form for conducting the meetings of the association. They are as follows. We can argue if study group officers training requires this, but I would say any of our meetings that we're having should incorporate these rituals. So I'll run through these briefly, or just a couple of them. From England's Icy Mountains is the first one. And it says, from England's icy mountains, from Greenland's icy, no, from Greenland's icy mountains is the name of it. From Greenland's icy mountains, from India's coral strand, where Africa's sunny fountains rolled down their golden sand, from many ancient rivers, from many palmy plains, they called us to deliver their Lord from error's chain, their land from error's chain. Shall we, whose souls are lighted with wisdom from on high, shall we to men be knighted, the lamp of life deny? Salvation, O salvation, the joyful sound proclaimed till earth's remotest nation has learned Messiah's name. Waft, waft, ye winds, his story, and you, ye waters, roll, until like a sea of glory it spreads from pole to pole, till o'er our ransomed nation the Lamb for sinners slain, the Redeemer, King, Creator, in bliss returns to reign. Um, okay, for the sake of time, we will just use that portion. All right. First question, well, before I start, any questions, concerns, comments from lesson 20, last week's reading? Okay. First question, what is the purpose of life according to the course of African philosophy?
To fulfill your purpose.
To fulfill your purpose, I can agree with that. I can, yes, that's not wrong. What is, how does, Brother Sam, you can start.
Yeah, universal knowledge and how to get it.
That's lesson one. What does Mr. Garvey say? He uses a specific word. Playing around. Sister Diane, very good answer. Mr. Garvey, as we should see at this point, there are several questions that could be asked on this text. And when we read it, each paragraph is a message that Mr. Garvey's trying to communicate. So our job is to decipher the message that Mr. Garvey's trying to communicate. The title of this lesson is Living for Something. And the first thing Mr. Garvey says, life is an important function. It was given for the purpose of expression. So that's what I was looking for, is the purpose of expression. Sister Diane, your explanation would not be wrong. But just kind of getting into the text, and Mr. Garvey kind of elaborates on expression, and expression is different for everyone. The way a flower expresses itself is different from how a man or woman expresses themselves, but expression and understanding our design as human beings. Questions, comments so far? Okay, so in there I had expression. I also had a survival and recreation, just general principles of, for us to be where we are, we have to, survive and procreate. But what Mr. Garvey said was expression. So that would be what I'd be looking for. Second question, how do we find purpose? How do we find our purpose?
You must search yourself with the knowledge of what is good and what is bad. Select your course, steering towards the particular object of your dream or desire. I don't know if you say all that, but that was an ongoing sentence.
Yes, yes, yes. That's exactly what he says. To find your purpose, you must search yourself, and with the knowledge of what is good and what is bad, select your course, steering towards the particular object of your dream or desire. The way to interpret this, or the way I interpret this, is through our lesson on Christ, where Mr. Garvey uses the example of Christ, but he talks about our free will being in alignment with what he calls the Holy Spirit of goodness. So as we talked about in lesson 5, everyone is born inherently with a Holy Spirit of goodness, what we call a conscience, that which directs us, or at least advises us on good and bad, right and wrong. So even before anyone tells us, what's good and bad, we have a natural conscience for what is good and bad. What Mr. Garvey says is when our free will is in alignment with, and free will is our ability to choose what we want to do, whether we want to pursue that which we think is good or we want to pursue that which we think is bad. We have that free will. But when our free will is in alignment with what we know to be right, that's when Mr. Garvey says you're on the right path. And he's saying the same thing here. Search yourself with the knowledge of what we know is good and bad. So, yeah, just guide yourself. You obviously would want to be more towards good. And through that path of repetition, you'll find your purpose in life. But it all starts with having a direction, and that's what this lesson is kind of about. So, any questions, comments? We'll go to the next one. But concept of direction is very important. Search yourself with the knowledge of what is good and bad. Select your course, steering towards your particular dream or desire. Okay, what should we never enter life's journey without? As we go into life's journey, what is something that we should not go into that journey without? So is of critical importance.
A program.
A program, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And what does he mean by that?
Yeah, basically just have a purpose.
A method.
A purpose, what'd you say, Lady President? A method?
A method.
Method.
You say everything you do it by method. Nothing succeeds continuously or repeatedly by chance. So just have a method.
Yes.
Or a plan.
Yes, program, plan, I guess method would be synonymous as well. But yes, we should not enter life's journey without a program or a plan or some type of idea of what we would consider a destination or a goal. We should always have our own goals and our own destination that we are trying to reach and achieve. We clear on that?
Yeah.
No. Okay, this is where I was trying to go. What is the analogy that Mr. Garvey uses for a life without a program? He says a life without a program is like something.
A ship without a rudder.
Yes, pretty much. I think I got ship without a sail. I don't know the exact word. Sister Diane, can you elaborate a little bit? What does that mean to us?
I'm not actually reading the book, but I think maybe like a ship without a sail or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, kind of like you're going underwater without your compass or something like that.
Well, anyone else? Anyone else before I have any comments on what Mr. Garvey says about
Yes. Your program is your chart through life. Everything you do it by method. Nothing succeeds continuously or repeatedly by chance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Lady President read.
Yes. Okay, y'all. It's an
And
aspect we're leaving out.
oh, excuse me.
Are you talking about the being overtaken by the sea or ill wind?
The top of 155.
The
Like
no
you can't
ship
steer.
ever
You
reaches
won't be able to
port.
steer.
Yes. No ship ever reaches a port without positive destination beforehand. That's where I was going. But I mean, I'm not saying anything is wrong. No ship ever reaches a port without a positive destination. Otherwise, it will drift on the mighty ocean, be overtaken by the storm or ill will that blows. Sensible captain goes to sea with a chart to map out his course so to reach his harbor of safety. Your program is your chart through life. Everything you do, do it by method. Nothing succeeds continuously or repeatedly by chance. But just imagine, yeah, a ship without a sail. I mean, that was the term. I don't know the term in modern time, but I mean, I guess it still would be the same. If you put a boat on the water, and you're telling yourself, you're trying to get to a certain destination. If you don't have a way of controlling that destination, then you're just going to go where the wind blows you. And Mr. Garvey is saying the same thing happens with people in life. When we don't have a goal and a destination that we're working towards, we can be thrown off and pulled into other people's goals and destinations instead of thinking about what's best for ourselves. So if we don't have a plan, and again, this is a repetitive concept. If we don't have a plan and a program, someone will have a plan and a program for us. That's really what it's about. Questions, comments? But we cannot be, like a ship without a sail, without a rudder, just blowing in the wind. We have a specific destination. We know where we're trying to go. We know where we're trying to be, and we're steadily heading in that direction. Okay, Mr. Garvey said a quote about if a thing is worth doing. What was he saying? What was the rest of that quote? If a thing is worth doing, then what?
It's worth doing well.
If a thing is worth doing, it's worth doing well. Was there any more on that, Sister Diane? Do you have the book open?
Almost. I was moving around a little bit.
You good? You good? I mean, that's good that you got that. Okay. All right. Yeah, I got it here. That was the last part of a short paragraph. If you have something to do and it ought to be done, do it with proper method or system to get the best results. Study it first, then go after it. If a thing is worthwhile doing, it is worthwhile doing well. And the summation of that statement goes back to the title of the lesson, living for something. So if life is worth living, then it's worth living well. And in order for us to live well, we have to have a plan. We have to have a goal, and we have to be working towards that goal. So if a thing is worth doing, it's worth doing well. And I think we also talked, I don't know if this is the lesson where he talks about Mr. Jones, and what Mr. Your reputation, so to speak. Questions, comments so far? A life is worth living. It should be worth living well. Next question. From a planning perspective, if we want to be somewhere in December, when should we start planning, according to lesson 20?
Now.
Now? That's not a bad answer, but it's not the right answer.
In advance, well in advance, so you could,
How much time is well in advance? That's where I'm going. Mr. Garvey makes it explicit.
What's the question?
If you want to be somewhere in December, when should we start planning?
a year.
January.
Yes. Brother Sam has it. Diane, you're right as well. A year, but I'll go to the text on that. It's just from a planning perspective, again, a program, a chart, a method, a destination. You know, I think I posted something on our Facebook. I'll show it in a second. Is it that? Yeah, here we go. If you want to be 5,000 miles away in December and it costs $500 to avoid being disappointed at the last moment, start in January to think about your trip and make arrangement for it. So as when the time comes, you'll be perfectly ready. Make this a practice in everything. Don't wait till the time arrives. Think ahead. So one of the first things that we talked about in this text, we're on page 156. So think ahead. Keep that in mind as I bring up something from the beginning. Here we go. So this is the second paragraph of the text, the foreword by Charles L. James, before we even get into the lessons. He's talking about, again, the importance of this course. He says, Mr. Garvey, sincerely felt that no one should be held responsible for his actions unless he or she is educated or trained to perform those actions. And since the UNIA had become the largest responsible movement in racial history, its leadership should be thoroughly informed so that the proper information would be dispensed. This is the last sentence is what I was looking for. Marcus Garvey was a man of vision. Therefore, his students had to be visionaries. And a visionary is someone who can see ahead, who can see what's coming, who can see what is needed for the community, and start to work to provide that. But those are the ones that are great people. It's not the ones that, as they say, hindsight is 20/20. Things are obvious after the fact. It's the ones that can see what's coming. Those are the ones that are praised and elevated in our society, as they should be. So think ahead. We have to be planning ahead at all times, especially as quote unquote leaders. As leaders, leader implies there is a direction. There's a destination. There's some place that we're trying to get to. So yeah, we just have to be good we have to understand that concept of planning. Let me pull up this. And any questions, comments as I pull up this short video? Free, shameless plug, UNIA-ACL Division 421 Facebook. Make sure you like, share all of our stuff that we got. We finally gave out our award from November's award ceremony. This is one of our recipients, Reverend Slaughter of the Beloved Community Church here in Atlanta. And if anybody know who this brother is right here?
That's Antonio. That's the city
councilman.
council brother. Yeah, city council brother.
Yep, he just happened to be there that day. Definitely linked up with him, got his information. But yeah, it just as Garvey says, we have to know people in the communities and especially politicians and things like that. So just another plug for Reverend Slaughter, really.
He do his stomping grounds is East Point, I noticed. So I think that's his district. I'm not sure.
Say that again. I'm sorry, ladies president. Oh my goodness.
Saturday
Come on, man. You just taking all the.
night.
Okay. Let me play this video and then we'll get back.
Be black and proud. Niggas. White folks are planning for 3 generations. We're planning for Saturday night.
That's the damn thing.
The goal for us is to win, not to look like we're winning. I'd rather carry a plastic bag with $5,000 in it than to carry a $5,000 Louis Vuitton bag with $100 in it. You're just looking like you're winning. You ain't winning. Louis Vuitton is winning, Nike's winning, Armani is winning, Gucci's winning. It's interesting to me that the rich stay rich by pretending to be poor, and the poor stay poor, pretending to be rich. And if we do not fix this level of financial illiteracy, lots of reasons why we are at the bottom of every single economic statistic that matters. We cannot be.
Okay, that's all. The main thing was planning ahead. Okay, January. So from an officer standpoint, from a Division 421 standpoint, our two biggest meetings are High Executive Council in April, convention in August. Those are our two major UNIA responsibility meetings. Outside of that, our big major event is Garvey Day. That's, what we do for the community. But at the end of the day, the takeaway from this is we should be planning for Garvey Day starting in September. We should be planning for HEC, January, March, April, April, May. When we get back from HEC, we should be planning for the next one. And then convention, we should also be discussing planning that since September. And we've been focused on HEC, rightfully so. And, we also need to focus on convention and Garvey Day, but we should just be planning a year in advance, according to the course of action philosophy. Any questions, comments? Yes. Yeah, we can't wait till the last minute. We can't say we didn't have enough time. We didn't, and this is obviously for the big events. So smaller things, we can discuss that amongst ourselves. All right, next question. What does it mean to live for something? What does Mr. Garvey, it's the title of this lesson, Living for Something. So what does Mr. Garvey mean when he says to live for something?
Might be along the line of having a purpose and putting your heart and soul into it, whatever the something is. I'm saying I think it might be along the line of having a purpose and putting your heart and soul into it.
Yes, but specifically, like, what is that purpose?
Live for something doesn't only mean something for yourself, but something for your kith and kin, and something for race. If a father lives for something, he ought to be able to see his children through to something, so that what he does not accomplish for himself might be accomplished for his children. For instance, an industrious father lives with the hope of improving his social and economic condition. He would like to live in a beautiful mansion on a hill from which he can see the country places around, the valleys, dals, and the lofty mountains. But he is working in a valley, living in a small cottage. He is growing older without his dreams realized, but he looks to his son and says, if I cannot enjoy this desire of mine because I may be too old, when the time comes, I shall make it possible for my son or grandson to live on that hilltop. That is living in the future. That is living for something. When the old man dies, the son inherits, and when the son dies, the grandson inherits. Inherits what? That which the grandfather lived for.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brother Sam. Excellent reading. So living for the future is really what it comes down to. A word Mr. Garvey uses in some of his writings, which I love, is progeny. But it's our, future generations. So that's what it means to Mr. Garvey to live for something. It's to live beyond ourselves. That's what this is about. We are continuing the work that Mr. Garvey started, and Mr. Garvey is no longer here. So he has set an example of living for something. We are able to pick up that which he lived for and carry on throughout our lives. And hopefully we can, cherish it and take care of it so that we have something to pass on to our future generations so that when we're not here, our work lives on. So that's what it is to live for something, is living beyond our single existence. Kith and kin, our race, but not just ourselves. Questions, comments on that? Very important question. That's what this lesson is titled. So that should be understood. And I think that the paragraph that Brother Sam just read summarizes that perfectly. No questions? Okay. A couple more questions, 6 more questions, then we'll get to the reading for tonight. Number 8, what should be the policy of every Negro? What should be the policy of every Negro? Sharing the right screen.
This should be the policy of every Negro to live for something to hand down to a son or a grandson so that they may have life a little easier than their fathers before them. It's a way of successful and great families have come into the world, and great races too.
Thank you, Brother Sam. Again, very straightforward. This should be the policy of the Negro to live for something to hand down to future generations and to make things easier for future generations. We have to acknowledge, and that's why we give honor and praise to our ancestors. They have put in the work in order for us to enjoy the comforts that we have today, whether it's, chattel slavery, freedom from chattel slavery, the right to vote, so forth and so on. There's several examples that we can put forth, but there are privileges that we have that we did not have to work for in our lifetime. And that's due to others that came before us living for something and living for us. So we have to pay that forward and make sure we're doing the work to live for future generations. Questions, comments? But again, as we look, just pause for a second. As we look at this chart over here, this is the third to last lesson. As I said, this is the summation of what I would consider the development of the individual. This is that last lesson. So we've gone through, lessons 1 all the way to 20. And we end with winning mankind by kindness and living for something. But these are the ultimate expressions of what we've learned thus far. The last 2 lessons, the history of the UNIA, is we'll talk about that in a second. It's very, very in-depth. And then the 5-year plan is very specific. So, but I want y'all to understand, this is the summation of everything that we've learned thus far, and a summation of how we apply what we've learned thus far. Okay, what is the result of things considered, quote, a waste of time? When we do things that are considered, quote unquote, a waste of time, what is the result of that after a long period of time, I assume? I don't like this question. I remember this question.
I think he's saying that it's empty and meaningless. You're not accomplishing anything. You're wasting time, basically.
You're right around it. You're right around it. Let's hit it. Hit it in the middle. What is it? What is the it that you're talking about?
Non-essentials.
Right.
No, no.
To be purposeless.
Right. It's purposeless.
See if he says it.
Purposeless, yeah.
He says, no. What is the result of things considered a waste of time?
Yes.
So playing bone dice is purposeless. There is nothing achieved in the time wasted. But it says there is nothing achieved in the time wasting. Now, you want the examples? Like, it depends on the example. I mean, the answer you want, President, because he gives examples of what is wasting time, and
Yeah,
what you
but
want.
that's why I said this question isn't written the best. If we identify, we know some things are a waste of time. Anything that is not in alignment with living for our purpose, which we just kind of outlined in detail, would be considered a waste of time. But the question is, if we continue to pursue and occupy ourselves and busy ourselves with what's considered a waste of time, what is the end result? Is kind of where I was going. But let me just read this. No Negro should be objectless or purposeless in life. Always have a purpose. To waste time in non-essentials is to be purposeless. Playing bone dice is purposeless. There is nothing achieved in the time wasted in doing so. No great fortune is guaranteed. No great art is accomplished. No structure is built in a game of chance. Playing pool is a waste because, like playing dice, is a game of chance. Sitting around and going from place to place without an occupation is waste. Valuable time is going and nothing is being registered by way of achievement. When one settles down upon a given and worthy ideal or occupation, such as an engineer, architect, builder, farmer, poet, or teacher, he or she is working on something that may become tangible in results. It is from such tangible assets that we build fortunes. Find something tangible to do and use your time in doing it well. It would be better to be dead than having no purpose in life. So no, that's yeah, this question is not going to make it to the exam. It may not even make it next year in the reading. No great fortune is guaranteed. No great art is accomplished. No structure is built. It is a game of chance. But purposelessness is basically you end up living a life of purposelessness. That's the general consent. But again, I don't like this question. Don't worry about it too much. Next question, what should we be what is the alternative that Mr. Garvey suggests to having no purpose in life? It's the last thing I just read. If we don't have any purpose in life, what is it better to be?
Dead.
Dead, pretty much. It's better to
be pushing up daisies. I'm just kidding.
Better to be dead than to have no purpose in life. And that's kind of what the last question was supposed to be explaining, is, if we're wasting our time, we're basically wasting our lives. And it's better to be dead than to have no purpose in life and to waste our life. Questions, comments? Next question. What happens when we see beauty through the eyes of the Anglo-Saxon instead of through the eyes of the Negro? What happens when we allow Anglo-Saxons to define the standards of beauty?
We'll be measuring things by their standards instead of our own.
Yes, yes, yes. Anybody else? What will we think of theirs and what will we think of our own?
We'll think theirs is better.
Yes. We would think that we would think their appearance is beautiful and our appearance is ugly. We envision the homeliness and ugliness of our features because we are not like the Anglo-Saxon. So as we've talked about throughout this text, there are obvious physical differences between the Black man, the white man, the Asian man, the East Indian man, so forth and so on. And if God wanted us to be the same, he would have made us the same. So these differences are intentional. And in the recognition of these differences, we should acknowledge and honor and love our appearance and perception first. And then we should honor and acknowledge others. But this goes back to having a plan, having a direction. If you don't come out and say, and state what is beautiful or what you feel is beautiful, others will definitely put forth ideas to let you know what they think is beautiful. So propaganda, we have to be able to and continue to promote our concepts of beauty. Questions, comments? Okay, no questions. Next question, what are we doing when we are wasting time running around helping others with their problems? What are we doing in regards to our race when we are wasting time running around helping others with their problems?
We're enhancing and uplifting others instead of ourselves.
Enhancing and uplifting others instead of ourselves. Yes, that is true. There's something more direct that I'm looking for and more severe. What are we doing to our people when we spend our time and energy and finances to help other people? It's beyond neglect. It's very important. This goes back to the charity concept, why charity should be focused at home. I'm not going to skip this. We're going to wait here because this is very important. When we waste our time running around helping others with their problems, what are we doing? How does that relate to our people?
It's like you're not furthering your race.
It's more severe than that. Not furthering would be like if we needed to push our race forward. If like, it's a shopping cart, we needed to push our race forward, and not pushing them would
Your
be
race will go extinct, basically.
yes, but what he's saying is that what not supporting them would be like not pushing them, would be hands off, just watching. But what he is saying is we are still having actions towards our people. And I'm asking what that action is.
Never forget that all other groups in the society of your community are looking after their own individual group interests. And your interests, except from the community point of view, is never theirs. Therefore, their interests should never be yours. As far as a particular group interest is concerned, don't be disappointed if other people shock you by their behavior, because man made it that way.
Yes, Brother Art. Resume. What I was looking for is first paragraph in the social confusion section. Mr. Carver says, man, yeah, I was about to say, you just read this. But no, you read something else. Yeah, you read something else. Man at his best in his society is always quarreling. He is never satisfied. Don't believe that you will find in your lifetime the solution for all his problems and ills. Attend only to those that concern you and your group. If you can solve your own group's if you can solve your own group's problems in your community, you have done well. Let others solve theirs. And this is the answer. The time you waste running around with others and helping them in their problems, you are robbing your race of that much time to help them solve their problem. So robbing is the term that I was looking for. We have to, this is the way Mr. Garvey expresses it. Um, um, yeah, doing things for others is not just as simple as neglecting your race, but it's actually robbing from your race. The funds that we give to others, the time that we give to others, the donations that we give to others, you have and when we think about it, in order for us to acquire much of the resources that we have gotten, it's come from our community, whether it's intelligence or physical resources. We have become who we are because we were built up by our community, and our community didn't build us up for us to, export the resources to other groups. So who we are, what we have become, what we have developed, and what we can produce is first for our people. And if it's not, then you are taking from your race and from your people, according to Mr. Garvey. Questions, comments? We are robbing from our group the time and help for us to solve our own problems. Very important. And last question. We must never forget that all of the groups in society and community are looking after what? I think, Brother Art, I think this is what you were saying, but what are other groups always looking after?
Their own interest.
Yes. Never forget that all of the groups in society of your community are looking after their own individual group interests, and your interest, except from the community point of view, is never theirs. Therefore, their interest should never be yours. Again, we have to have our own interests. We have to have our own goals, and we can't wait until someone else gives those to us, because obviously their perspective is from their own benefit. So we have to have a perspective from our benefit. And that completes lesson 20. Any questions, comments on lesson 20? Takes us into lesson 21. Again, this is a very long lesson. A very long lesson. So, yeah, and I don't have all the pages on this one text. I'm gonna have to switch over to another text. As a matter of fact, I'll just do that now. Switch over. I like this format though, because it's so pages so small. See? Do we have a reader for this evening? This is again, it's a long lesson made in a couple readers, but anyone would like to start practice elocution?
I'll start it.
Thank you, Sister Diane. You have the floor.
Okay. Lesson 21, History of the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association.
I'm sorry.
Yes?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I just want to give a little bit of preface for our guests, well, for everyone, really. So, as I said, first 20 lessons specifically on ourselves, our development, and preparing us to go out to the world um, for a purpose larger than ourselves. And hopefully, there's some alignment with the UNIA and the goals of the UNIA. And it's not just a spiritual calling. This lesson, very important lesson. So anyone that doesn't know about the UNIA, doesn't know about Mr. Garvey, this is a great summary lesson of um, a very short summary lesson of the entire compilation of the UNIA, where it came from, why it was started. It gives some examples of success, but it also, reminds us why, we should continue to promote this organization today. So thank you. That's all I got. Lady Diane. Sister Diane, you have the floor.
Okay, so the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League was conceived as an organization for the purpose of raising the status of the Negro to national expression and general freedom in the year 1913 during the visit of Marcus Garvey to Europe after he had completed an adventurous visit to the Central African republics. The concept continued to impress itself upon him until the conceiver was compelled to make it practical during his stay in England during the same period. To make it practical, he sailed from England, foregoing a course of law which he had undertaken for the purpose of a profession. In June of 1914, he sailed from England to Jamaica, British West Indies, his native home. I don't know why they're calling it British, but anyway. In July 1914, he got together a group of men and women in the city of Kingston, and there he organized the association. Meetings in the name of the association, UNIA and ACL, were held regularly. Later, he held meeting of the organization at the Collegiate Hall in the central part of the city of Kingston, Jamaica. A group of officers was elected, and the organization came into substantial existence. Many meetings were held in the different part of Jamaica in the name of the organization, and it continued to exist in the island as an organization until the year 1916, when the founder sailed for America. On his arrival in America, he visited Tuskegee Institute on an outstanding invitation from the late Dr. Booker T. Washington. At the Institute, he met with the principal, Dr. Robert R. Moulton, and Professor E.J. Scott, the secretary-treasurer. He discussed with them the purpose of the organization, which was similar to the present aims and objective of the organization, which have been written into the UNIA Constitution. Mr. Garvey received very little encouragement and left Tuskegee to continue a trip throughout the United States. On his return to New York, he visited Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois at the office of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. He discussed with him the aims and objectives of the association and the possibility of organizing the movement in the United States. He was very much discouraged by Dr. Du Bois. He undertook to organize on his own account in Harlem by first speaking on the streets, principally Lenox Avenue, during week evenings, and inviting his listeners to attend Sunday meeting at Lafayette Hall at 129th Street and 7th Avenue. The meetings at Lafayette Hall grew rapidly in membership, with occasional overflowing mass meetings held at the Palace Casino at 135th Street and 5th Avenue. After Lafayette Hall became too small to accommodate the growing membership meetings, the Palace Casino was secure for regular mass meetings, and offices were established on the premise above what was then known as the Crescent Theater at 135th Street. From the Crescent Theater building to the Palace Casino, the movement grew with such rapidity that premises were secured at 135th Street between Lenox and 7th Avenue to be known as Liberty Hall. All this progress took place within 18 months of the founding of the organization in Harlem, New York. From Liberty Hall, the movement spread all over the United States and all over the world, culminating in the calling and convening of the first International Convention of the Negro People of the World in August 1920 in New York. At this convention, Marcus Garvey was elected President General, with 20 other persons making up the Executive Council to help guide the destiny of the organization that had become international. For further information on the history of the UNIA and ACL, read the first and second volume of The Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. How to teach the UNIA. To know what the UNIA is, you must first read its constitution and books of law from cover to cover. You must also read the literature written by the founder bearing on the activities of the organization. The preamble of the Constitution is vitally important to those who are to interpret its supreme object. Whenever the purpose of the organization is challenged by foes, in particularly, quote the preamble of the Constitution. This should be done, especially when the organization's enemies assail it before a court of law or before governmental authorities. The preamble was written especially for the purpose of winning the sympathy and support of alien races where the other objects of the association are being threatened by hostility. The UNIA and ACL was intended as one organization to carry out all the aims and objectives of the Constitution, but the law of the states in which the organization operates separate the functions of friendly and fraternal organizations from those of business organizations. Hence, in the incorporation of the name of the association in the state of New York in 1918, the two organizations were incorporated separately. The organization had to be incorporated as the Universal Negro Improvement Association Incorporated and the African Communities League Incorporated. The UNIA was incorporated as a fraternal organization, and the African Communities League was incorporated as a business organization. But the Convention of 1920 accepted the original idea and linked the two organizations together as the UNIA and ACL to hold the principles that were intended so that though, did you miss a page? Okay. Okay, through his or her, so that the two organizations would not go apart as if they were not related. Whenever the UNIA does business, it will do so as the African Communities League or as some other business organization, as evidenced in the incorporation of the Black Star Line, the Black Cross Navigation and Trading Company, the two factories, corporation, etc., which with all its capital held by the UNIA. No private individuals are intended to own the capital of any of these enterprises because these enterprises were organized as future ones will be organized only for the purpose of supplying funds by way of profit to the UNIA to carry out its aim and objective as laid out in the Constitution of the UNIA in the interest of the race. All subordinate companies of a business nature must be controlled by the UNIA to enable it to carry out the aims and objective of the UNIA and to comply with the law of the respective states. Membership in the UNIA is divided into two kinds: the active members who join a division or branch of the association and pays the regular dues according to the Constitution and bylaws of the according to the Constitution and bylaws of the organization. An active member has claim through his or her division to all benefits. All Negroes are considered ordinary members by virtue of their race. Charity may be dispensed to ordinary members if it is available and they can prove need. The association is supposed to maintain an interest in every Negro, irrespective of his nationality or his condition, as long as he has not been proved a traitor to the race or outlawed as such. All the properties of the UNIA and associate business corporation companies or enterprises are held in trust for the Negro race in the relationship of the race through the active membership in the organization as explained above. The accumulated wealth and property of the organization must be handed down from generation to generation as the property of the Negro race through the UNIA because it is held in trust to be given back to those who need it as the occasion may demand. Always give a receipt for money received in connection with the UNIA. Always keep proper record and always have a duplicate for your protection. If you receive money from people in the name of the organization and do not give a receipt, you can bet they will investigate for the purpose of trapping you. And then your name will be dead if there is any delinquency. When you attend a meeting of the UNIA as a representative and you are to receive money for the parent body, always let that money be received first on the records of the local division through its officers from whom you are raising it for the parent body for a particular purpose, so that when an account is made, the local record will support your report to the parent body. Whenever you visit a division of the organization as an official representative of the parent body, you are then the superior officer. You shall then see that all things are conducted in the proper way in your presence in accordance with the Constitution. When visiting a division, always make your visit profitable, both to the division and to the parent body. Never create a loss or tax on the local tax on the local division by your visit. Every visit you make to a division should be an opportunity for you to enroll new members for that division and to increase the enthusiasm of the local member for the organization. In planning a visit to a division, whether it is a regular visit or otherwise, always inform the president and the secretary respectively, and get them to make the necessary local announcements so as to give you an extraordinary attendance of people and members so that you may have an opportunity to increase the local membership. If your visits are always an asset to the division, they will always invite you outside of your regular visitation to come among them. The expense of your trip should be well figured out before you make it. Railroad fare to and fro, or bus fare to and fro, accommodations, etc. Hence, you should see that the meetings are worked up to such magnitude so that when they are held, they will cover these expenses. When you visit a division in your territory, your financial returns should not be only from the division, but you should seek to use the time that you are in the community to get support from individuals and to do work for the associations, thereby killing two birds with the same stone. You should always observe the proper form of opening and closing a meeting, as well as the proper form for conducting the meeting of the association. They are as follows: opening hymn from Greenland's icy mounting, reading the prayer in the ritual or hymn sheet of the association. When your program is not too crowded and the time for the meeting is lengthy, you may go through the whole form of a prayer. If there is not sufficient time, read only such part of the prayer as would enable you to go through the program without length. After the prayer, sing either Shine on Eternal Light or Oh Africa Awaken, then go into the rest of the program. When you are closing the program, close with the prayer of the association for that purpose and sing the African national anthem. Whenever your object is to raise financial assistance or collection for the parent body or for the local division, let the raising of the same come in the middle of the program after your most emphatic speech of the day is delivered, whether it be delivered by yourself or someone else. If you have things to dispose of for the association or other help to get, this must come after the main collection. If you are the person appealing for the collection, you must do so with steady emphasis and a properly worded appeal. This must never be done half-heartedly because it will bring half-hearted results. If you have raised a collection for the parent body at a meeting, see to it that it has been properly accounted for after it is taken up. Make sure that it is not mixed up with the funds of the local division. When visiting a division, you are always the guest of that division. The president presides and then introduces you. If it is a special business meeting, when you have been called in to regulate the affairs of the division, you will take the chair as a representative of the parent body and conduct the meeting accordingly and restore order, and then hand the meeting back to the president of the responsible officer of the division. When a president has been removed and you have been called in, you may appoint someone temporarily, such as the vice president, to act until you have reported the matter to the parent body, and the parent body carries out an appointment. If there happens to be factions in the division and you are called in to straighten out their affairs, never take up residence at the home of either side. Seek independent lodging until um, have disposed the matter. Otherwise, you will have the prejudice against you for taking side. Never listen to one side without hearing the other side. Never give a decision on one side without hearing the other side. Always try to specify, always try to bring factions together in keeping with the principle of the association. Always try to compromise. Always try to compromise the factions towards keeping the peace. Whether you make your official visit to the division as a representative or of the parent body, always call for the records. Go through them and see that they are properly kept, and then make it a report to the parent body. Whenever you see mistakes, then mistakes that can be corrected, see that they are corrected. Don't allow them to continue. Never allow any division to have individuals owning the property of the division in their name, except in cases where proper documents have been passed, where the organization is not registered as between the persons and the organization, showing that they are only holding such in trust for the organization. But all this should be discouraged, and immediate steps taken to register the organization in the particular state or community so that its property may be held in its name. When property is bought in the name of the organization's name must be mentioned, and only the name of the officer of the organization at that time must appear as officers, not as individuals. For instance, Brooklyn Division of the UNIA, John Brown, President, Henry Jones, Secretary. In law, the names are taken as being officers of an organization. Hence, the individual can make no separate claim on the property as individuals. Should they not continue as officers of the organization, those who then become officers of the organization would have their names substitute as officers. This would not affect the ownership of the property by the organization. Pay careful attention to this so that the association may not be defrauded of its property or its rights. Always look out for self-seeking officers and individuals in a division. See to it that they do nothing detrimental to the interests of the organization. Always confine yourself to your own designated territory and never go beyond it except when authorized to do so. Always respect the charter rights of every division, chapter, branch, or affiliated organization. Never use one against the other as long as they are chartered Have no favorite division except the one that you may be a member of. Always hold on, hold an even balance. Always encourage cooperation between the divisions. If a member cannot get along in one division before his membership is lost, advise him to join another division. Wherever there are no divisions or chapters and there are Negroes in the community, encourage the organization of a branch, chapter, or division or a division. Over 1,000 Negroes in a community ought to have a division or a chapter. So in a community where you have 200,000 Negroes, you may have many divisions according to the district and location. All 200,000 of those Negroes could belong to one or two divisions. You should approach ministers of the gospel in the community and ask them to organize chapters in their churches, of which they will be the president, so as to get their church member to be UNIA members. Do the same with lodges and fraternities. They can also be chapter of the UNIA, even though they are independent lodges and fraternities. Argument for the Constitution, perpetuation, and support of the UNIA. The UNIA's work from 1917 to 1937. Number one, the UNIA has steered the entire world of Negroes to a consciousness of race pride which never existed before. Number two, the UNIA broke down the barriers of racial nationality among Negroes and caused American, African, West Indian, Canadian, Australian, and South and Central American Negroes to realize that they have a common interest. Number three, the UNIA has given Negroes throughout the world a program of racial nationalism which never existed before. Number four, the association caused all Negroes to recognize their common origin as Africans and their African descent. Number five, it has caused all other races to recognize the national aspirations of the Negro. It placed the Negro's cause before the League of Nations and the Versailles Peace Conference. Number six, it placed the national aspirations of the Negro before the Disarmament Conference in Washington in 1924. Number seven, the UNIA caused the French, English, and other European government with colonies in Africa and the West Indies to extend greater privileges to the native race and to offer them more secure position in the respective civil service, diplomatic service, and political life of the country. Number eight, Negro justices, magistrate, and heads of government department were appointed because of the activities of the UNIA in different countries. Number nine, the economic status of Negroes was raised in different countries because of the association. Number 10, the association taught the Negro how to go into big business. Number 11, it taught the Negro how to secure his own business enterprise, through which tens of thousands of Negro businesses had been started all over the world. Number 12, it taught Negroes how to support their own professional men, doctors, lawyers, etc. Number 13, the UNIA taught the Negro how to support his own church. Number 14, it taught the Negro how to use its political power, from which he has benefited in the United States, the West Indies, Africa, and other countries. Number 15, the UNIA gave Negroes a national flag and a national hymn. Number 16, it caused the other races to spell the word Negro with a capital N. Number 17, it taught Negroes self-respect for their race. Number 18, it brought courage to the Negro race throughout the world. Number 19, it caused Negroes to search for a new type of leadership. Number 20, it taught the Negroes preparedness against adversity. Number 21, it has been the most outstanding Negro organization throughout the world. Number 22, it is the most recognized international organization among Negroes. Number 23, it is known in all parts of the world. Number 24, it taught the Negro to follow only Negro leadership. Number 25, it has served the Negroes from the hypocritical, dishonest leadership of other people which have never brought the Negro any good results. Number 26, it taught the Negro that the cat don't lead the rat, nor the lion lead the sheep, nor the wolves the foxes, and so Negroes should lead Negroes. Number 27, the UNIA has taught the Negroes to never rely upon the sweet-sounding words and promises of others, but to rely on his words and his own promises if he is to be led safely. Number 28, it taught the Negroes to believe in himself and not to believe that what other man seeks for himself, he's going to give away freely. Number 29, it has taught the Negroes to have his own labor organization and not to expect other laborers who are competing with him for the same employment to give honest leadership for him to compete with them for the same job. Number 30, it is the only organization that has given the Negro an international outlook. Number 31, it gave the Negro press a broader point of view. Number 32, it kept the Negro from going red for the convenience of others. Number 33, in 20 years, the UNIA changed the attitude of the Negro and set him on his way to a new hope. Number 34, on the fundamental desires of the UNIA, one of the fundamental desires of the UNIA is to approach every Negro with the attitude of friendship, brotherhood, and sympathy. Therefore, every representative of the association must adopt an attitude that works to bring about the realization of such a desire. It may be necessary to use a great amount of tolerance to reach the desired end, but whatever is necessary must be done to bring about such a state of affairs. The policy is that you cannot drive a Negro away from the organization and still want to organize all the Negroes. Every Negro that is lost prevents the ultimate achievement of the aim of the organization. So never try to drive a member out of the organization. Don't drive Brother Umar out of the organization. Hold him and convert him. Just kidding. Always appreciate the fact that the majority of Negroes are ignorant, and you must exercise a great amount of tolerance to educate them to your point of view. This is your missionary work. As other people were willing to sacrifice their time and even their lives to Christianize our race, so we must exercise patience and time to civilize our people. The attitude of expelling members and suspending members is not accepted with good grace and should be resorted to only under the most extreme circumstances. The attitude should be adopted to find an alternative to expulsion. The best way to prevent dissatisfaction in a division is to live up to the Constitution and bylaws, because it is the only way, the Constitution and bylaws that you because it is the only way because it is only with the Constitution and bylaws that you can discipline a member. If a member violates the Constitution and bylaws, you can reasonably draw the violation to him or her attention. You cannot show partiality in a division of the association or in the work of the association. You must be impartial to maintain the principles of the association as the attraction for those who do not know anything about the association. Never cease in your effort to influence a Negro to join the association until he has joined. So long as he stays out of the UNIA, the work of the so long as he stays out of the UNIA, the work of uniting all Negroes cannot be accomplished. Always remember that you are a missionary for the cause of the association, so lose no opportunity that may present itself to make converts for the association. A splendid way of proselyting for the association is to interest all your friends and acquaintances in its movements. Whenever you go among them, tell them of anything done and accomplished by the association. Always find some work for the association during the time you are not actually attending a meeting of the association or doing any special work for the association. Devote your time in calling upon your acquaintances in the neighborhood, in your community, to talk them into becoming members and supporters of the association. You should know all of the people of your race on your street, in your neighborhood, and in your town. Approach them in your leisure hour, one by one, to convert them to the organization and to get support from them for the organization. Where you come across responsible people of the race, take their names, professions, and address after talking to them about the association, and send the same in a weekly report or a monthly report to the President General's office at headquarters. Ask the President General to communicate with these persons in the manner you think would best help to clinch the support of those persons for the organization. In your own town, secure names, addresses, and professions of all responsible people, doctor, lawyers, merchant, preachers, etc. Send these names to the headquarters with comments about each person for headquarters to help influence these persons to support the organization. Always keep in touch with the newspaper published in your community. Get the newspaper published to print favorable news about the activities of the organization. See to it that every intelligent person in the community of your race subscribe to or purchases the Black Man, so that they may keep up with the activities of the movement. Read the Black Man regularly yourself, so that others will not have information you have not got. When you attend meetings of divisions as an official, always carry yourself with dignity and always be impartial in dealing with the affairs of the division. If you take sides not based on the Constitution, you are only destroying your own usefulness in that division and to the parent body. Your honor must always be uppermost in dealing with matters affecting the divisions when you visit them. If you are an official of the parent body, always see that the dignity of the parent body is maintained through you. Any bad behavior on your part will reflect upon the judgment of the parent body in appointing you. If you are a representative of the parent body with proper credentials. You must observe the agreement entered into between you and the parent body for dealing with the affairs of the association. Any violations of the agreement may cause you to lose your office as a representative of the parent body. Never overstep your authority in dealing with division as representative of the parent body. Never attempt to show your grand superiority to the displeasure of members of the division or officer of the division. Be as modest yet as firm as you can be in your dealings. Never invite antagonism more than an arrogant and unreasonable display of power. The most powerful people in the world are the most modest when dealing with those whose goodwill they depend on. They know how much immodesty offends others. Never try to be offensive. Never threaten others. But reason with them. To threaten an officer or a member is to invite antagonism and belligerence, which will make your task more difficult. Never enter into any unworthy arrangement with officers or members of divisions, because ultimately they will expose you when you do not do things to suit them. The moment you enter into any dishonorable arrangement, the person you have done so with holds it as a club over your head and will place you in a false position in order not to expose yourself. Don't do it. When working as a representative in a community to get results for the association, you should divide the community into zones or districts. You may even reduce the districts to streets or blocks or streets and appoint some responsible and enthusiastic member in that zone, district, or street to be a kind of captain or lieutenant to keep the spirit of the people in the area regulated to the principle of the organization. The captain or lieutenant must be an active member of the division. Since he lives on the street, he would likely know all the people on the street and could help greatly in organizing them as members of the organization. Your chief aim must be to organize every man, woman, and child. If with all these materials and possibilities you cannot make the UNIA succeed in the community, you yourself are a colossal failure and not the people. The greatest recognition of your merit and ability will be reflected by the number of people who are members of the association in your community, district, or town or state. Their activities will testify to your greater activity in their midst. You should not expect promotion from the parent body except you have something to recommend in your community for such promotion. Otherwise, your promotion will not be fair to someone else who has done his or her work. Don't complain, do the job, get result. The moment you start to complain, you are stating that the thing cannot be done. If you cannot do it at one place, you cannot do it at another. You are a failure. You are no good. Let your pride be in winning over any adversity. It gives good satisfaction. You have enough material in the UNIA to use as an argument against any man who is a member of the race, caring not how destructive he is. Therefore, don't leave him until you have converted him. Talk him out. In this respect, bring all of your diplomacy to bear. Use all the experience you have had in dealing with man and enlarge on and enlarge on and explain every good point of the UNIA. Carry your constitution and read the preamble and the aims and objective to him. Explain them as you have been taught them, and when he makes up his mind to join, get him right there. You have had approach. If you have approached him to become a member, let him join then. If you have approached him for support, get him to write out or give his support right there. Afterwards, immediately, thank him by correspondence for joining or supporting. To give him an impression of your business-like ability. The best time to call on people is immediately after meals, not before, because when people are hungry, they are not in good mood. Call immediately after the breakfast hour, the dinner hour, and the supper hour. If you are calling at the office, never call an hour before lunch or an hour before dinner. Always go smiling and pleasant. Don't carry a long face. If you have been abruptly received,
Mr. Diane, you're on mute. Sister Diane, we can't hear you. Anyone wanted to pick up? Can y'all hear me? Brother Malik, Lady President, Brother Art, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll read it. If you have been abruptly received and abruptly talked to, reply with pleasant remarks and smile your subject into changing his or her mood. Even the savage will admit defeat when met with a smile. If a person has a frown on his face, say, I hope you are well, Mr. Jones. That will put him off guard immediately. If he states that he is not well, sympathize with him and tell him about some remedy you know. This is a good psychology to win your subject. Or you may say, you have a very pretty picture here, Mr. Jones, or some other thing, though not pretty to flatter his vanity, but to take him out of his sullen mood. If he is a smoker, offer him a cigarette. Tell him something that you think he ought to be interested in. You may hit upon something by looking at the things around him. Have you seen the latest picture? Have you heard the latest news? Then go into your subject. After you have changed his attitude, don't start talking to a sullen man on the subject you are approaching him on until you have won him over to a pleasant mood. It will be better to go back and visit him a second time. Always point out to him that the UNIA acts as trustee for the race. Help him to understand that every Negro benefits from the success of the organization. In arguing for support of the UNIA, draw extensively upon the imagination and find an argument to support you. You have the argument of the success of a nation, the success of other race groups, and always use the Jew as an argument. Almost the first persons to be approached for help for the UNIA are professional and businessmen and women of the race. A better organized race will mean better business for them. Tell them that that is the work of the UNIA. Therefore, they should support it. Let them realize the power you have in your hands to direct patronage one way or the other as an organization. To win over your new prospect, tell him that Mr. So-and-so has done so and so for the organization, but it must be a fact, not a lie. Then he will not want to be left out and will support you. This must not be done for personal profit, because if you are found using this method for personal profit, you will be struck off the roll of students and be disqualified as a representative, because the moment of the person finds out that you have used the approach for personal profit, you have damaged the association and your own reputation. Hence, you are of no use either to the organization or to anybody else. The first international convention of the UNIA held in New York from the 1st to the 31st of August 1920 formulated and adopted the Declaration of Rights of the Negro peoples of the world, to which the organization is committed until the objects of the said declaration are fully realized. The declaration must be studied by each leader of the race. It is to be found on page 135 in the second volume of the Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. In seeking financial aid for the UNIA, always do so with confidence. The high and lofty aims of the association and the universal objects to be achieved can only be done through the support of each and every member of the race. This calls for the support of every man. To gain such support, always impress upon the Negro that heretofore he has supported white organizations, such as the churches, and he has contributed to their institutions without getting any direct benefit. He has supported the Salvation Army. Therefore, there is no reason why he should not support a movement of his own and calculates to bestow upon him and his generations untold benefits. Contributions to the UNIA should be generally accepted from Negroes. But where other people of other races can be approached and are willing to give help, such help may be accepted, but without any strings attached or promises made that would in any way compromise the clear-cut intelligence of the policy of the UNIA. Such contributions do not entitle the donors to any privileges of membership or to any right to attend the meetings of the UNIA except public meetings as a guest. Their contribution should never entitle them to attend or take part in any of the business meetings of the organization. Their donations may be accepted in the same way as Negroes give to white organizations without having any claim on those organizations. Whenever donations are accepted from other races, the names of such persons, when registered on the same account of the donations as that of Negroes, must be marked with a cross. And when such donations are being forwarded to the parent body, an explanation must be given stating that such a person is a member of a white race or whatever race the person may be, so that no communication of a private nature will be sent to that person, which reveals the business of the UNIA. This is a very important because by distinguishing between the donors and such persons may be written to as if they are members of the UNIA, and they may be sent communications that they have no right to receive. In approaching people of other races for help, your argument must be different from that of the approach to the members of your race. Your appeals should be based upon humanity, good citizenship, and helping a worthy cause. Never explain the objects that are uppermost importance to the UNIA, because they will naturally react with unfriendliness and suspicion. Never believe that another person is so friendly as to know your objects and not to try to hinder you and ultimately succeeding. Whenever you make an appeal to an individual or individuals for financial help for the organization, you have failed in getting a response. The failure is not due to the person or persons you have addressed yourself to, but may be due to your inability to properly interpret them, the objects and aims of the UNIA, and the reasons that they should support the organizations. Always be in position to interpret these aims and objects to gain support, because people are willing to respond to a thing that is to benefit them, even in a remote way. Never approach anyone for help for the organization with doubt in your mind. It is better that you wait until you are in the frame of mind to talk consciously, so to carry out conviction rather than to try to do so when your spirit is low. Let every day, every hour, every minute count in your life for something done, something accomplished. Don't waste time, it's a sin. Time wasted can never be recalled or regained. Try to always be the best advocate of the cause of the UNIA. Try to let no one surpass you in doing that. There is something in you that is individual that nobody else has. Try to bring it out and let that be your individuality and personality, for which people will remember you and talk about you. There is nothing that someone else has done in the triumph of the cause that you cannot do if you go about it in the right way. Always try to find the right way. Never hang around people who are always discouraged, despondent, poverty-stricken, poor, and never do well. You will ultimately become like them. Try to get around cheery people, happy people, prosperous people, and you will be unconsciously take on their prosperity and their happiness. Never live in a house with or keep company with people who always have a bad luck story. Their sins will come upon you, for the same evil spirit that is following them may also be near you. Always appear bright when you are seeking help for the UNIA. Dealing with divisions. In dealing with the division of the UNIA, always recognize the division itself as a chartered body, as the representative body. The units of a division, according to the Constitution, are all subordinate to the division. The division officers are the only responsible officers in the division. No auxiliary has the status of the division. Dealing with the division, first recognize the officers of the division. According to the Constitution, the legions, the Black Cross nurses, the Motor Corps, and other auxiliaries must be obedient to the officers of the division. Great care must be taken in watching and controlling the activities of the legions, because in ignorance, they are apt to get the division or organization in trouble by trying to exercise authority while they are only members of an organization registered by the state. The legion's function is more physical, cultural, and disciplinary than anything else. Any hostile demonstrations by them endangers the community or the peace thereof, or creates trouble among the members, must be quickly put down, and if necessary, their unit suspended to prevent such trouble. The legions have no control over the Black Cross nurses. The Black Cross nurses are a separate unit. The only relationship may be that someone from the legions with the ability to train may give them physical exercise and proper discipline. The Black Cross nurses fall entirely under the supervision of their own head nurse, who is to seek for them first aid training and some medical institutions or individuals through the officers of the division. The Motor Corps is also an independent body of the women who may be trained as a competent Legion officer, but with no direct affiliation. To see to it that divisional officers do not allow members of the legions to appoint themselves to any office as lieutenants, captains, majors, or colonels, or whatnot, without the authority of the president, who is the ranking officer of the lieutenants in his division, as set down in the Constitution. See to it that divisions do not allow Tom, Dick, and Harry to go into a division to speak to the lecture to them without the authority of the parent body, and that they do not allow anybody to use the meetings of the UNIA to put over their own propaganda, which tends to distract members from the UNIA. See to it that no fake lecturer or wildcat scheme representative gets into any meeting of the UNIA through any individual influence. Keep a close eye on African princes, chiefs, princesses, and all such fake personalities whom come into the meetings of the UNIA. No prince, chief, princess adopts such methods of going around begging and exploiting princes and princesses are royal personalities who they stay at home or only make state visits to other countries and are generally accommodated by the head of a nation. Anytime such fake princes or chiefs come among you, expose them and drive them out. Never entertain anyone who claims to be Christ, God, John the Baptist, or such presumptive titles. Never allow divisions to take the word of personal claiming to represent Mr. Garvey or claiming to be sent by Mr. Garvey. Let them produce a letter. If they can't, drive them away. Whenever you find such fakers, hand them over to the police or make an example of them, have it announced in the newspapers or scare others. Whenever anyone is called upon to sit in a UNIA meeting and speak in your presence and say things not in keeping with the policy or membership training of the association, after they have finished, you should rise immediately and correct them for the good of the membership. Instruct all presidents and presiding officers to do the same. Whenever you think something is detrimental to the organization and its policies, never fail to correct it immediately so that the people may not get the wrong impression. Always defend the organization and protect its name in the public press or otherwise. If you find an opportunity to debate with other people to maintain the principles of the organization, do so by challenging them. Before you debate, always read up on the point of view or subject so as to be able to handle the same in keeping with the principles and objects of the UNIA. Whenever you are in doubt of anything in the UNIA, write to headquarters. Never take it upon yourself to settle the question decisively if you are in doubt. Always say, pending the ruling of my superior officers, this is my opinion, and leave it at that. Do this only when you are in doubt. Encourage the divisions to use programs and regular and public meetings that express the statements of Negroes. For instance, all recitations should be by Negroes, poets, and authors. Songs, hymns, and choruses should be by Negro composers also. Encourage the juveniles to study the Negro poems and songs. Encourage local divisions to have a reader who is educated to read striking articles from the Black man each week. Encourage some bright juvenile in each division to study and recite the tragedy of white injustice. Never have them recite the poem when white people are present. Encourage some bright boy or girl to study and recite African fundamentalism. Always keep these two major bits of literature before the people until they come to know them almost by heart. Okay.
Thank you, Brother Art. Excellent job. That completes lesson 21, History of the UNIA. It is 10:10 p.m. Any brief questions before we close out for tonight?
My phone conked out earlier.
Excellent job, Sister Diana.
No, thank you. No problem.
So yeah, read the lesson again. Obviously, this is a very extensive lesson. There will be several questions next week. Then next week we will read the 5-year plan. I will give some questions on the 5-year plan, but we may not necessarily have a review of those questions, but everybody should understand the style at this point. The questions come from the lessons. So this will be an open book exam, first Saturday in March and second Saturday in March. So March 2nd and I believe March 9th for those that aren't able to make the March 2nd. And it'll probably be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Saturday. But yeah, excellent job, Brother Art. Excellent job, Sister Diane. Like I said, a very long lesson. And we will go through the in-depth questions for this lesson next week. But we are wrapping up the course of African philosophy. So if there aren't any questions, we will move to close. Brother Art, would you do us the honors of giving us the slogan and the motto? The motto and the slogan.
Okay, everybody put your right fist in the air. One God.
One God.
One aim.
One aim.
One destiny.
One destiny.
Africa.
Africa.
For the Africans.
For the Africans.
Those at home.
Those at home.
And those abroad.
And those abroad.
Race first.
Race first.